Welcome to the Podfather podcast. You'll find everything about me and the podfather.me, all my 6 shows and everything QR code or go to roycollin.com. I'm delighted to have my business partner and friend, and we do a weekly show on our Awakening podcast where we're exposing everything but giving solutions about health and what's going on in the world. So be sure to check that out. Arnold, welcome to the Podfather podcast.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be on the Podfather. I hope I can be a good pod child.
No, without a doubt. I mean, like we're business partners, and one of our strategy was getting you on shows. I believe since August. I think it's like, well, on the list is about 80. Not all happened, and the reason that I want you to come on is because I know that as a person that's guesting on a lot of shows, you experience a lot of, pros and cons, just like, the AI that we talk about on our show and different things. And I'd love for you to share your 2 cents with the listeners.
Yes, thank you very much. It has been quite an interesting experience. By the way, I love doing it. I love being a guest. So that shows in my reviews. I think I may say about myself, I only got 5-star reviews and very, very nice descriptions. So, well, that shows that it's not only me liking it, but especially the audience and the host.
And just on that, actually, because a lot of times, say in a platform, whatever, people would say, oh, great show, great guest, whatever. But any of the ones that I've seen with you, they're writing a paragraph, how it's touched them, which is very rare. So it just shows that, for the podcasters that actually engage with you, you're touching them deeply, that they actually go out of their way to write a paragraph about the conversation that you've had.
Absolutely, absolutely. So some of my experiences are when I have to, book a meeting and sign up for a meeting with a host. Already on my Podmatch profile, there's basically everything you need from me. Yeah, it's like from pictures to questions to what I'm doing to a link to my website. So everything is already there. What I don't like is when I have to sign up. It's like, please fill out this form, which is 90% repetition of what is already on the Podmatch profile. So, and then you have to send it and then wait for a response, whatever it is. I totally don't like it. It's like if people have developed their own form, well, that's fine, but then don't use Podmatch because it's double. Huh?
It's actually a good point, and I'm going to interject here because I have a form because I get contacted from every direction. So it's not just say on Podmatch. I have like loads of different people. So my form fills out the different thing, and I have questions because I want to try to break the norm as well. So on my side of things, I like people to kind of what they're discussing. So you could have on your form, but something new could have come up, and you'd say, "I want to talk about this." So there's advantage to that. But as you say, there's a load of points. So I should create a separate form for when people come from a platform, because there's a few like that. But Podmatch, I've talked about it on the show, so it's good point.
The other point, and I'm not sure whether hosts think about that, but it seems to me that, well, I would say a majority of the people, the time gap between recording the session and publishing the session sometimes is like 6 months or a couple of months, and whatever. And I think that doesn't work, because if I would be using as an example the elections in Romania to prove a point, well, if you hear it in 6 months, you're like, what's that guy talking about? The elections in Romania? So you miss that it's like, or you talk about the Zelensky-Trump row in the White House in 6 months. It's like, what's that? So I would say is that you need to make sure that the time between recording and publishing is as short as possible.
And I'm doing that now with, say, the Podfather and getting them out fast. And I've compressed it with a lot of them, but with, say, the speaking, because I had so many in the backlog, they have been 6 months and more. And I know that it's way better. There's an advantage of getting them out fast. It's good to have a reserve because if something happens and you get ill or you have to go on a trip, it's nice to have a few shows that you can still schedule that people know are coming out. But the thing is, what I've noticed is the guests are a lot more inclined to share because they remember me, they remember the conversation. Whereas if I'm putting it out 6 months later, they can't even remember it. And they're so busy, they're not going to go, like some do, they go in and listen again and everything, but some don't. And so I agree, compress it. So I'm intentionally shrinking up the time frame that I use on my speaking podcast. But the other ones, I tend to get them out, within a month if I can, or 2 months.
Yeah, and what I'd like is to have a conversation, to have a dialogue with the host, rather than someone who repeats the questions, which are just a guideline on my profile. So you could ask these things, but then like, what is digital dementia? Like, they see it as a question, and okay, you answer. Okay, next question. Like, that's not a dialogue. That's not interesting. That's just something like, okay, you could write it down and find it, but like, yeah, is like really, well, it would be good to say, okay, I'm interested in digital dialogue, digital dementia, but then ask like, why is that? Do you recognize that? Do other people have that? What can we do against it? Then it's interesting, and not just I give the answer. Okay, next question.
And just on that, I think a lot of podcasters are lazy as well because they don't do the preparation. I mean, I spend 1 to 2 hours, sometimes even 4 hours preparing for an interview. But a lot of them, they're just trying to chug through them and get on the top of the charts of a certain thing, try to get out 30, get one out a day. And they're just going boom, 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 boom. They're not even engaging. And then they're gone as well when you finish. So I think it's very important to be unique yourself in having a conversation because it's not actually doing you any service if everyone comes along and does the exact same thing, because then you have the exact same content. And if you're creating shorts and everything, you don't have anything unique. You need to try to have people to use their brain, think of what it is, look at some of the interviews, because when I'm doing, and you might touch on something small that the guy didn't do, delve further. And I go, oh, I like this. And then I could actually, and I'd have a list of questions and I'd go off on a tangent and I wouldn't even touch the question. So I could go off, and that's by me being prepared.
Yeah, and then well, my I put on my brain fitness hat is like, it's no fun, it's no joy for both the host and the guest if you just repeatedly all have the same questions and the same stuff over and over. It's like, yeah, then an AI can do what you do because it's, yeah, and you don't get excited about it. You're like, oh, I got another of these stupid interviews. In middling, it gets for both parties interesting if you just let it flow, if you let it happen, if you are enticed to create a conversation. And that brings me to another point. Is like, if the host also shares his or her experience, and it's like, yeah, I had the same thing. I understand this. Yeah, I also feel this, and I had also problems with this. It's like, be a little bit more vulnerable, be a little bit more open in sharing your own stuff. It's not just like, hey, I'm the expert, I'm the host, I know everything. No, just engage yourself from your own point of view.
Yep. I found that like when you're vulnerable, that's how you connect with people. People see the human side of you.
Yeah. Touching on the human side of things, it like, I listen to a podcast myself only on audio because it's while I'm walking. But still, if and so I respect that, I understand that, and that the podcast itself is audio only. I understand that, but please open a video so I can see the person I'm talking to, because I want to make a connection with you. I want to understand what you need, what your audience need. I want to see in your face what you just did. You nodded. It's like, okay, I understand. You're understanding what I'm talking about, but if I'm looking at a black screen, I cannot do that. Yeah. So please at least have the video so I can see the human being where I spend half an hour or sometimes an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. I can at least see them and they can see me. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, I do tours as well. I go in shows and that's happened. And I always turn on my video But if they don't turn around, then I just turn it off. It's like, it does, and I don't enjoy that. I prefer to see the partner as well, because there can be an uncomfortable silence as well, because you don't know, are they listening intently or preparing the next question, and they don't know when you finish and everything. Whereas when you're looking at somebody, you can read exactly how
Yeah,
they're going to
yeah.
react.
That's what they call non-verbal communication, which is more important than the words you use. So it's like, please do that. Yeah? Two other and as a clothing thought, very important thing. One is with a thing is very annoying is when I book a meeting with a host. So let's say it's in 2 weeks at certain time, whatever. I'm not exaggerating. I'm getting more than 10 reminders in my email. It's like, well, please have the meeting next week and tomorrow and in 1 hour and in 2 hours and in. I say extremely annoying. Guys, I'm of the generation where we didn't have computers. So if you have a meeting with someone, you put it in your agenda, that's it. No reminders, no stuff, whatever. So please don't do it. And I know they don't do it, it's Calendly or in any other booking app, whatever. But please don't send me. And you send it on my phone and you send it in my mail and it's like everywhere. It's like, dude, please don't do it because I'm already pissed off before we start.
I get 10 to 20 like that with some, and then they don't turn up. And it's like, you've just reminded me 20 times about this meeting and you don't turn up. And that drives me crazy.
It's also about respect and understanding things. Yeah. And even like I get the reminders and then the host doesn't show up. Like, what is this? Yeah? So please don't do it. And another thing that is especially true for, I would say, host in the US. Well, you're in Poland, I'm in Romania. Please, guys, understand that there's a time difference. Yeah? And that when you book or have people available is like, yeah, well, I'm not going to go on a show in the middle of the night, or you are also not doing that. But the same is true for me. So please have some consideration. Yeah, that there are people in the other part of the world. I'm a guest, and I'm very happy to be a guest on a main podcast in India, but there's a 3 or 4 hour time difference between me, so I got to cater for that. Yeah. So it like be sure that if you want your audience to be international, understand that there's a time difference.
Yeah. So, like, sometimes people will stick to it. I personally, I'm a morning person, and I can podcast up to 7, even 8, but I won't go more than that because I've tried it. I've even done it just to connect with someone and say, all right, I'll do this. And like, I'm not myself at 9 or 10 o'clock. So we have to take that. But I mean, and there's people that
Yeah,
I go on the
yeah.
show and they make an
Yeah.
adjustment. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so no, it's horrible. So it like it's not well. Like I said, it's mainly people from the US that they don't notice that. It's like it's my time. No, you're 10 hours behind me. It's like yeah, okay, that creates some challenges in the planning, but it's also like you said, it's like, well, I'm not gonna do it in the middle of the night. I'm not gonna do it in the evening. I start working at 6 a.m. So it'll like the moment it's 6 p.m. I'm really done. Is there it like yeah?
There's just one, because I know we've touched on it as well. I don't do it pre-calls. And sometimes it can be okay. Like, I'll do it if I'm going on a show. If they have a pre-call, I'll go in, and sometimes they're just trying to ask what we discuss, and you're just kind of connecting. So when you do the interview, I see advantages that, okay, you've got a bit of a bond, and you kind of, it's not that you're just facing each other for the first time. I'm able to do that. But I've also seen unprofessionalism, that they don't really take it seriously, and they're just kind of, and I know you've kind of the same. So you might just kind of touch on that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for mentioning it. I actually forgot it, but it like I think they're useless. At least that one because one was really a serious conversation, and well, and then we had 3 4 months later we had the interview, and the guy didn't mention anything what we had discussed in the prequel. So because there was such time, he was already forgotten it. And I'm like, why should you do that? Yeah? Um, There's one person who did a pre-call that like, yeah, I just want to say, which date shall we book? And like, hey, it's costing me a lot of money because it's an international phone call. You say, but like, you could have done that online. And a lot of the discussions were like, hey, dude, if you look at my website, if you read my profile, you shouldn't have this call. It's part of preparing. I know you prepare for all your podcasts. You prepare everything about the other podcast, about the question to ask, about everything. I prepare about the person who I'm talking to. Is like, what's their audience? What's their topic? So what can I do? So I expect from you to prepare. And if you have this pre-call because you're too lazy to prepare, I don't like it. And it costs you time. It costs me time. It's a waste of our time.
The thing is, usually it can be even only 5 minutes or maybe 15. But the problem is you're blocking that out in your calendar. And then it stops it, whether it's you're going for the walk, going to the gym, or having another interview or something like that. So it's filling up an hour usually. And a lot of the time they even flake, which because they're thinking, it's only a pre-call chat. And then they go, oh, sorry, we'll just do the interview. And you're like, yeah. So I've witnessed that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think have you covered? Yeah.
I've worked out my list. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So just before we end, you might let people know what you're doing, where they can find you, and because then there's podcasters that listen to this that might want you on the show as well.
Yes, I'm Arnold Beekes, and my last name is always difficult to pronounce, but I don't care how you pronounce it. I'm the brain fitness trainer. My focus is on brain fitness as opposed to mental disease. We know in our society, it's, I think, one of the largest, if not the largest epidemic of mental disease, from depression, burnout, tiredness, overwhelmed, not feeling good enough. So instead of making sure you really get this ease, that you need to work on the prevention and the optimization part of your brain, just like you do with your body. You exercise, you go to the gym, you go swimming, you play football, anything. That's how and why I developed a thing called brain fitness. And I would like to, if you're interested, have a look at my website. It's called braingym.fitness. There you can find what it is, why I'm doing it, who am I, and also there's a link to the training program which I provide, and to some videos, master classes which you can buy about a specific topic.
Yep, excellent. Make sure link in the audio and the video. You will find everything about me on podfather.me or all my 6 podcasts, and scan the QR code if you're watching on the video. Make sure you give thumbs up and subscribe, hit the notification button, really helps, and you'll find it on mycon.com. Until next week, take care.